This morning we're here at Bob Carl Sales and Service in Troy, New York to do a presentation on driver personal gear and how we check it and what's important. I'd like to thank Bob for all the support for the SCCA over the years, and let's get to it. So driver personal gear is something that we check in the SCCA once a year, typically before the first race for the driver. We used to check it at every event, but we stopped doing that nearly 20 years ago. There are organizations that still check it every event. For example, Lemons, which I drove in a Lemons race last August, and they check gear at every event. And their standards are similar to the SCCA but differ, and I will mention some of those things as we go through this video. So this is a typical one-piece driver suit. This is my suit, which I've had for longer than I like to think about. And this suit has an SFI patch, and it's certified to the correct standard. Now, since the number after the slash is 5 or greater, this one is 5, this suit is a multi-layer suit that does not require fire retardant underwear. I think the underwear is a good idea, but with this suit, it's not a requirement. Now, the other patch that we accept, or not patched properly, but the other standard we accept, and this is Bob's suit, which I borrowed out of his car, is the FIA patch, which usually shows up as an embroidery on the back of the collar, although there is usually, well, frequently, but not always, something sewn in here. And yeah, I'm not sure quite how to decode this. Maybe there is and maybe there isn't, so we'll just move on. Shoes. Shoe standards vary. The SCCA just wants a shoe that's not made out of a fabric like nylon that will melt. Leather is common, and it needs to cover the instep. So these are Bob's shoes, and you see that this is considered, this low top is considered adequate coverage. Now, I personally have a preference for the Simpson high tops, and this is my original set of shoes. And the SCCA does not require a certification label. However, Lemons, I discovered, does, and so I bought a new set of Simpson high tops with an SFI label on them because, you know, trouble in gear check is not the right way to start a weekend. Now, the underwear. I recommend the underwear even if you don't have to have it, and Nomex underwear is, Nomex when it's in this unprocessed form is real obvious. Nonetheless, newer underwear will actually have SFI certifications on it. Fireproof socks are important. Nomex socks, again, similar material. You do need to wear the Nomex socks. In fact, in SCCA races, when I am serving as Chief of Tech, I have been known to impound fields in July and August and go through and make sure they are wearing all the required pieces of gear. And on one occasion, a driver who was wearing cotton socks looked me straight in the eye and said, "I didn't know you had to wear them." Now, Nomex socks are a pain in the neck, I agree, but nonetheless, cotton burns and Nomex doesn't. It's important. Okay, if you have facial hair, it's important to have a Nomex balaclava. It's probably a good idea, even if you don't have facial hair, just to make sure that the area between the neck of your suit and the helmet is covered over. Gloves. The SCCA does not have a specific certification requirement. Lemons does. These gloves are my ancient gloves, and they actually do have a specification for FIA 86. So those actually pass Lemons Tech, although that was not a consideration when I bought them. This is my brand new helmet. Helmet standards. Helmet standards turn out to be simple in practice. They look a little complicated in the book. The SCCA accepts 4 different helmet standards. We accept the British standard, we accept the FIA standard, which is largely European. We accept the standard from SFI. But the only standard that is normally seen in US club racing practice is the Snell standard, which is really kind of considered the gold standard in SCCA racing. And right now, SCCA road racing accepts the Snell 2010 and the Snell 2015 standards. Snell updates standards every 5 years, so at Snell 2020 standard, it will be coming next year. You will probably have a lot of difficulty buying a Snell 2020 helmet until 2021, and so normally in the SCCA, in the overlap year, in this case 2021, we're going to accept both 2010 and 2020 helmets for 1 year only, and then the 2010s are gone. So the Snell sticker, and this is going to be hard to see, but we'll see what we can do, is down inside the helmet. It's that long reddish orange sticker. I don't know if you can see it there. Yeah, and they're usually, this one isn't buried too deep. Sometimes they're buried very hard to find underneath the liner. The only time that I would expect to see a British or an FIA standard helmet would be if a European driver came over to run in one of our events, and this has actually happened once or twice. But normally when that happens, I expect people working for me in tech to recognize it's an unusual situation and refer it to me, so we can make sure it's handled properly. Now, a critical thing on helmets in recent years is the mounting post on the helmet for the forward head restraint device, which is usually but not always a Hans. And in 2010, you could get helmets with the drilled threaded insert or without, and if you got them without, you had to add that. In 2015, all helmets to this motorsport specification come with that drilled out, and so you install the post that works for your device. Now, I have seen occasions where the posts were not installed correctly or the installation needed to be touched up. Typically, it's important to have the post oriented correctly. You'll see that this has a small arrow that's supposed to be pointing to the rear. This is kind of the standard Hans post. And then that should not be able to turn. And you see that there is an Allen head machine screw that goes into the insert to hold it in place. When those come from Hans or whoever, they usually have a blue thread locker on them, and you're supposed to insert it once, put it in all the way so that none of this stuff moves around and it's aimed correctly, and then set. And I've seen them where they weren't tight enough and this piece spun around. And I've seen them where the thread locker had failed and the screw was unscrewing itself. And so I always, grab them and spin them in order to see whether or not they're secure. Because what happens, and this is a Hans, is that there are flats in that post that line up with the arrow. And so what happens is that you drop this on, press down, and it snaps into place. If I spin it around, it won't come loose. I have to spin it back in line in order to get it to come off. And that's the standard Hans post. So let's move on to the actual Hans. A Hans device needs to have either an SFI or an FIA certification label on it. Either standard is considered sufficient. We don't really age out the Hans, although there are some expiration dates associated with it. What you should pay attention to is the condition of the webbing, which is typically polyester or nylon. And you see this is a brand new one, so this is nice and pliable, and all the threads are the way that they were sewn by Simpson, who own Hans now. Periodically, probably every 5 or so years, you need to send these in for recertification. This is a Simpson hybrid that belongs to Bob's son Dominic. And this one, Dominic has been using this one for a while. And if you were to feel the webbing, you would feel that the webbing has gotten kind of hard and inflexible. And then you look at this and you see that, you know, it's just starting to get a little bit frayed around this webbing piece. So this one really, and you also, the thing you see is that the SFI label is in the process of peeling off. Once that peels off, I wouldn't be able to accept this as a head restraint device anyway. So I've recommended to Dominate that probably needs to go back for recertification when the season's over. And as a general rule, this is an important thing to add on here before we close out the video. It's very important to always buy your safety gear from a reputable vendor or somebody that you know and trust. Don't go buy it from the cheapest source on eBay or some random online listing. There are counterfeits out there. There have been counterfeit suits. There's been counterfeit harnesses. There was even someone manufacturing counterfeit Simpson hybrids, and I have a set of memos describing the counterfeiting process that were sent out by the SCCA office, and I'm planning to get those posted on the MOHUD website in the near future, so look forward to that if you want to understand what kinds of things we get warned about in tech all the time. So thank you. Oh yes, one more thing. Now that we have seen all of my gear and that it's correct, we get to add the helmet sticker, because this is this will make this gear good for all of 2019 now that we've verified that all of the gear is good. Now normally I would not apply my own helmet sticker to my own helmet, but since you've just watched me go through all of this gear, you can turn me into my boss if you can figure out who that is. And we will see you on the next video. Thanks.